فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون صدق الله العظيم. We begin with the praise of the Almighty One, the remover of difficulties, the ultimate teacher, the one who guides, the one who gives life, the one who gives death, the one who responds, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we send peace and salutations and salams upon the greatest creation to ever been created, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we send peace and blessings upon the Ahlul Bayt, the Sahaba, Tabi'in, Taba Tabi'in, the Awliya, the pious and righteous. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them all. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everyone with different levels of intellect. And we can see that when we go through school, some people come out with straight A's and so forth, and maybe there are people who come out with straight C's, D's or E's. And it may be possibly that they haven't tried as much, but there's clearly sometimes even a different level of intellect. And within intellect, you also have understanding. Everyone sometimes have different understandings of different things. And just like we are all created in a different manner physically. So, unless you're born a twin as such, everyone is different physically. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given everyone different levels of wisdom. So you can be the most intelligent person, but it doesn't mean you have wisdom. And vice versa, you might have no GCSEs, but you might be regarded as someone who has a lot of wisdom. And what we all tend to do is we tend to do things for our own benefit, using these different powers in terms of intellect, wisdom, understanding, even physical features. And we use these in a different manner sometimes, that hopefully my intellect or my wisdom or my understanding will allow me to earn more than other people. Maybe if you're blessed with good looks and you might even become a model, you may be able to use your physical features as a way of earning. And likewise with education, those who have been blessed with intellect generally tend to go on to university, maybe even the good universities like the Oxford, the Cambridge, the big universities and so forth. And all these, in terms of that, we're also trying to get the best partner in life. Because when we are looking for a partner, we're certainly not going to, let's say, expect like a C-grade partner or a husband or a wife. We all want the best one. We want the best looking partner. We want to make sure they're the most intellectual. Maybe they're earning lots of money. So we look for all these features in them and so forth. And even those of us who, when we come to buy a house, we will stretch ourselves in terms of trying to find or buy the best house. So if you can afford a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom, we will stretch ourselves maybe to even buy in a nice area. It's got a big garden. And even with our cars, we're always wanting to have the best cars. So we're always looking to get that next car which will improve. And within human nature, we also try to avoid loss and harm. It's a natural human instinct. Nobody wants to naturally lose their wallet. Nobody's happy to lose their wallet. And likewise, maybe when we are investing money, we're always trying to avoid that loss. Even in anything in life, you're going to try to avoid harm to yourself and so forth. But sometimes, as I was saying, that this idea of having lots of earnings or education, having the best spouse, getting a house, car, we all don't achieve what we want in them kind of sectors. So we not necessarily, all of us will maybe have the best earnings, comfortable earnings. Maybe all of us won't get a degree. Maybe we won't get the spouse that we even imagined. Maybe we'll have to make do with a terraced house. Or maybe you just have to drive a Toyota like I do. But sometimes we have to then think, why is it we are not achieving these things? Why are we not achieving the best house, the best car, the best spouse, having multiple degrees, having the best job, high level of earnings? And what you have to also think is at different stages of our life, we have different levels of intellect, understanding and wisdom. Nobody's born with a degree as such. And we look at that, it's manifested when we look at a baby. How much intellect does a baby have, or even understanding or wisdom? And that then develops onto a child who's maybe slowly starts to get a bit of understanding and a bit of intellect as such, and you develop then onto a teenager, and that's when we really think we've maybe got now a lot of understanding. We're no longer a child, and we think we're at that age now. We understand everything, and so forth. You get onto your early adult life, and you start taking major decisions in your life regarding education, jobs, maybe about getting married and so forth. And as you'll see then, as you get married, you'll then have kids. You'll get maybe into your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. And what you'll see is you'll have different levels of intellect as you go through that life, different levels of understanding. What you understood now is probably what you understood 10 years ago is totally different. And same with wisdom. We might think, I probably have more wisdom now than I did 10 years ago. And we use all these factors really because we have like an innate desire that we get benefit for ourselves. And so really what sometimes happens is that benefit may sometimes clash with someone else's loss. Another starkest example is a thief who steals £1,000 off someone. He gains a benefit of £1,000, but the person who he has stolen from, they have lost £1,000. And I always think about when even people invest in shares or cryptocurrency. So we might buy a share for a penny. Somebody sold you that share for a penny. Let's say that share goes up to £1. We then sell at £1. Now it's not there's anything wrong with this, but the person who sold you that share for a penny, if you think about it, they lost out 99p. And so likewise with how this is how crypto works. That we buy very low, hoping it'll go high, and then somebody will come in and purchase it at that high price. Because that's what happens. And maybe they're purchasing it because they think they've seen this cryptocurrency go from, I don't know, the value of £1 to £100, and they're hoping maybe if I buy it £100, it'll go up to £1,000. And usually that's when everybody starts buying, and that's when it usually starts going down. So we look at different levels of our understanding and intellect in a very simple manner. When we are children, you give a children a toy, they're very happy. Give a boy an action man or a toy car. I'm not really even sure if children do this anymore necessarily. I'm talking about really young children, and maybe young girls, they still maybe play with dolls and have them fake tiny toy houses and stuff. And even, we think that we give some sweets to children that we can get them to do something. So, we'll make them sit quietly and we'll say, yes, we'll give you some sweets. And as you get older, maybe when you're 12, 13, 14, or even probably early these days, you want to have the best trainers, you want to have the best clothing, we have the best clothes. So what do parents do? They bribe you. If you do this, I will get you these brand new trainers. Or if you particularly want this kind of jacket as such, then you'll have to do certain tasks. And as we then develop through life, parents, once you get married, once you have children, they tend to have a higher level of intellect. And if you follow that through, you look at governments. Governments are based on people who have a lot of intellect. Usually, maybe Boris Johnson aside, you think they are very clever, very wise people. But even Boris Johnson went to Oxford, so he must have some kind of intellect to get to that position. And what happens is, take an example of parents. They in one sense force their children to go to school. If a child gets up and says, I don't want to go to school, the parent will force them to go to school. Now why is that? Why? Because the parent thinks they know better than the child, and they know what's good for them, what's going to be better for them. The child won't see it at that stage. Maybe all of us who are past 16 can now look back and think, yes, we were maybe forced to go to school, but probably it was a wise decision that our parents did well. And even the government, if you don't these days send your children to school, the government will come and fine you anyway. And so if you think about it, an element is force is used upon us to do these things. So when we're children, elements of force are used. We are forced to go to school. We're even forced to come to madrasa to learn Quran. Because if you say I don't want to go, your parents will make sure you go. And this is again, it's a sad point of misnomer in this country. We all especially in the West, they say, well, we've got freedom of will, we can do whatever we want. But if you think about it, you can do whatever you want, providing, it doesn't upset the government or effectively even your parents, because you have to go to school and so forth and so forth. And we saw recently this issue of COVID vaccines where maybe the government wasn't forcing us, but through the back way they were saying you can't do this if you don't have a vaccine, you can't go abroad, or you can't do this, or you can't have a certain job as such. And that really ultimately comes down to that the parents or the governments, they think there's a greater benefit, there's a greater good to be achieved. And then coming back to the example of when we get married, so once we have gone through life, we get the education, we get the job that maybe we want or trying to achieve that, and we then get married. But then what happens? We start thinking we want the nicest house, the nicest car, we want the best things for our house, the best sofas, the biggest TV, it's all fitted to the wall, very nice, all these kind of things. We become very materialistic. Maybe we want a very nice watch. And maybe even some brothers want an actual doll for a wife now, because we're all very maybe basic or simple like that. We want the prettiest wives, and vice versa. It does apply to women as well. They want the prettiest husbands. And so if you think about it, if you compare that to a child, they are going after these toys and they get content when you give them these basic toys. But what happens is when you get older, what are you doing? You're effectively still chasing the same toys, the toys of dunya, aren't they? We are chasing the houses, we are chasing the cars. Maybe it's not one of the miniature Ferraris anymore, it's an actual Ferrari or Lamborghini or whatever that we're going for. And that's because we all got different needs and different desires we want to fulfill. Just like that child, all he wants to do is maybe play on PlayStation all day. He doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to go to mosque, wants to eat burgers all day, sweets, drink Coke. That's their desire at that time. But what do parents do? They say, no, that's not good for you. You need to go to school, you need to go to madrasa. You can't be having a burger every day. You can't spend all night on PlayStation as such. And we try to explain this to children that, you need to go to school because, if you get older, you need to get a job. This is going to be the real life as such. But see, when we then get married, and maybe then we have children and so forth, or even let's say we go past the age of 20, or at that age, and we're thinking our parents are telling us, do this, do that. Who's teaching the adults and parents? Sometimes we might think that they know it all, and alhamdulillah, most of the time they may know a lot because they've gone through life, they've seen various steps, they've developed that level of understanding and hikmah in life so they can advise you. But if I think as an adult, who is he to make sure that I am doing the right things? Maybe I'm not getting consumed by the dunya. Maybe my focus in life is simply that I want the biggest house or the nicest car. Because we have that protection when we're a child, we have that protection as we're teenagers, and probably most of us will probably say that once we get married, when the parents tell you something, we stop listening to them. We're thinking they don't know anything, they're too old. But really, I think once you maybe get towards past 35, 40, you probably realize even your parents, when they're telling you stuff, actually when they've hit 50, 60, 70, they've seen a lot more than us. And they were actually maybe advising us in our 20s with that hikmah and wisdom and intellect and understanding of life, which we were probably just starting out on that journey. But the real answer to that is that who will teach the adults, the parents? Because there's no guarantee that you become a parent, you become a wise person, that you know what you're doing. You will still make mistakes. But the real answer is, like our blessed teacher said, that you have to have what's called spiritual parents. So not your physical parents, the ones who gave you birth as such, who fed you, gave you nourishment, gave you education, clothed you, housed you, got you married off, gave you the education, gave you everything, and even when you get married off, they're still trying to feed you and stuff. So it's your spiritual parents, and really the biggest example of spiritual parents is the prophets. The Prophets ﷺ were the most intelligent people. They were the most wise people. they had the most understanding. They had the ability to see beyond this world. They didn't have this tunnel vision of let's accumulate assets. They could see beyond this world. And you have to almost ascribe that to similar to parents. What are they doing with children? Why I think I know I can see the future. Maybe I want them to study hard now so that when they get to that, they get a good job, because if they get a good job, they'll be able to earn money, they'll be able to get a good house, a good partner, a good car. So what are your parents doing? Even when they're telling you, they're seeing something in the future which will hopefully benefit you. Because they're not just saying it for your harm, otherwise why would they waste their breath? You have to think about it. Why are they actually telling you? And obviously we've got maybe quite a lot of teenagers here. You almost have to think, are they really wasting their breath? Have they got nothing better to do? Tika, maybe their manner's not the best. Maybe you feel they're lecturing at you. Maybe, as you said, you think you know it all. But know that they have gone through life and developed to such an understanding that they're trying to say, look, benefit from my mistakes and my wisdom. And really, those who are on the path, we are blessed like to have Hazrat Sahib, a true awliya of Allah. What do the awliya do? What is their really maqsad? They also can see the future for us. They want what's best for us. They want you to get the best hereafter. It's true, isn't it? Otherwise, why do the awliya of Allah spend so much time with people trying to work on them? We look at our example of Shaykh Ahmad Dabbagh. Why are they at every majlis spending so much time, allowing people to see them one-to-one, travelling the world, going to people's houses? Is it because they've got nothing better to do? No, they want the best for us. Why do they want the best for us? Because they want you to have the best hereafter. So that's not the houses of this dunya. They want you to have the best house in Jannah. They want you to have the best wives in Jannah. And they want that hereafter. They want the best for you. And so what they are trying to do is, when they are trying to say, maybe tick these sheets, maybe you should be doing this, they want the best for you. Now we might think that, when maybe even ultimately we start the course and some other brother tells you to start the course, that all is really coming from Hazrat Sahib. Just because Hazrat Sahib is not personally telling you as such, it is Hazrat Sahib who has put all this system in place. They are the ones who said you should be doing this course. Why? It's not only going to benefit you in this life but the hereafter. Because they are worried about your hereafter. And likewise, if you're told to do zikr or any other amals, they want the best for you. Why do they want us to read these adhkars every day? Yes, we know the hadiths have all been there, the benefits of them. But they are stressing to us, read these adhkars so that you protect yourself. Prevention is better than cure. And really, we have to think the true awliya of Allah, they have more intellect wisdom than any lawyer, any doctor as such. I mean, you go to a doctor and sometimes you tell them you got a problem and they can't give you an answer. They say, go for this test, go for that test, I think it's this, I'm not sure, we'll have to do this test. What they actually do, they tend to rule things out. They can very rarely give you positive answers. They're hoping that out of them 5 things, if they do tests, it will rule out 4, and the inevitable conclusion is that. People go to lawyers thinking, maybe they're going to solve this case or that case or everything, but what you have to think is in each case there's 2 lawyers involved. One's going to win and one's going to lose. So how is it we can say even a lawyer knows what's best for you? Can he predict the future? He can't, can he? He can give a best educated guess, but that's all it is. And if you look at governments, what do? You have a president or a prime minister at the head of the government, but they have an entire cabinet beneath them. They have lots of advisors. So we might think, okay, a person who's made president, he probably is the most intellectual or has a lot of wisdom, but they have so many advisors on everything that one wonders, does anything come from them? Or they just listen to 10 advisors and they take the least riskiest option. Because if they've got to that position because they are super intelligent, have lots of wisdom, why have they got so many advisors? Because even they don't know necessarily, they need this advice. That's why they hedge in the bet, they have 10 advisors. Let's see what the 10 different opinions are. Maybe if 4 or 5 say one opinion, maybe it'll be safe for me to follow that opinion as such. So, really then coming back to what the purpose of awliya of Allah is this, that they want the best for you. So what is it we are supposed to do then? If they want the best for us, what are we supposed to do? We are simply just supposed to follow. Just as I said, that the parent wants the best for you, and up to a certain age we follow them. And then we seem to think that, okay, maybe we know better than them in certain scenarios and certain situations. But really, maybe take that advice on board, think about it, and try to implement it. See if it benefits you or not. Probably 9 out of 10 times it will benefit you. And just like with anything you're taught on this path, you're told to do certain things, do it. It might be difficult. It means you have to get up. If you're doing the adhkars in the fajr, it means you have to get up maybe 5 or 10 minutes before, or spend 10 minutes after namaz. You can't go straight to work, so you have to accordingly adjust your times. You have to take that 10 minutes out. Taking that time out to do your zikr, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you've been prescribed. There's benefit in for you. That's why you're given these. It's not that they're thinking, let's fill your time and there's nothing benefit to do. And those brothers who even on the street, you see all these messages in the various months. These are the amals for Rajab or Shaban or whatever. And most of just read them and think it applies to someone else. Maybe someone else is doing all these amals, but no. Again, they've been prescribed for your benefit. So really, what our job is then is to simply do it and follow it properly. And you can bet your bottom line, if you follow it properly, there will be benefiting for you. So know that when you are being told, let's say your mentor's telling you to do something, and maybe the nafs is not liking it, or whatever it is, know that there's some kind of benefit in for you, because really that's what they're implementing really what the teacher has guided us to do. It's not something they are just making up on the hoof themselves. And so really remember, our teacher wants the best for us. That is why we are on this path. That is why we are bothered to even take sheets, take time out on a daily basis to do zikr. Then if we're not doing the zikr, we're not taking the sheet, then really what's the conclusion going to be? Then somehow we're hoping that somehow magically things will happen. We don't do that when it's our GCSEs necessary, do we? We don't think, we'll leave the revision, I'm just going to get straight A's like that. The person who does that then gets a shock on results day. And they'll realise next time when I do exams or anything like that, I better not do this. So really, just in conclusion, we all have different intellects, wisdom, and some people have more wisdom than you, some people have more intellect than you. You have a particular skill, use that. But know, again, in certain situations, that is why we are asked to do mashra and take advice from people, because usually comes out as a better result. If I've said anything wrong or not in accordance with Islam, I seek forgiveness from my errors. All goodness comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Haji Sahib, for the wonderful nasiha and much needed advice. It is something that we should definitely revisit, and you have to bear in mind as well that these speeches, these lectures and discourses are uploaded onto our YouTube channel, which is Tariqa Muhammadiyya Nelson. Short clips are formed on TikTok. More importantly, over all of that,